So it's important that you have tools that can, serve you well over a long period of time, and that can kind of scale up to the business that you're doing.
The documentary CEOs of Seattle, what is unique about having a business here in the Seattle area versus like Denver or Chicago, or is there a difference?
Well, I haven't lived in those cities or I have worked in Los Angeles, which is a very different animal than Seattle. I think Seattle's an interesting community. It kind of has its pros and cons. I mean, as a business owner, I think it tends to be a little more conservative, a little more provincial. On the other hand, it's got a very diverse community. It's very much open to Asia. The ports are getting bigger. The diversity here is increasing since I moved here, and I think it's for small businesses. It's a great community to at least start and get your roots and develop. The political climate here is really favorable, in my opinion. It's also, I think, probably the prominent place in the country where the green movement is really taking off and getting some legs under it. I know DC is looking in our direction in terms of how we're pulling that off, and I think the size of the community and the size of the Northwest and the climate here makes it a sort of a good breeding ground for that. And Seattle, I think, it's got a fairly decent transportation system. I think some people would disagree, but after living in an area like Los Angeles or anywhere else in the country, I think it's pretty efficient. And we have the advantage of a lot of rain, which I don't like.
It's really green here.
It's really green.
Now, if you're talking to a teenage girl, and she says, "I want to be a CEO someday when I grow up," what kind of advice would you give her?
I would say follow your instincts. I know that sounds pretty simple, but I think your instincts are important, and the older you get and the more experience you have, you realize that those instincts are very refined tools, certainly when you get to be my age. And don't be impatient. I think that this is a very different world than it was when I was young. It's actually very challenging to have the benefit of so much communication coming in your direction, whether it's communication you want to have at all or communication you intend to have. It's got to be overwhelming to sort that out and make decisions and move forward instead of standing in place. But I think following your instincts is very important.
Now, a modern business owner, a modern CEO does have to wear many hats. You got to be a cheerleader, a coach, a psychiatrist. You also got to know numbers and spreadsheets and all that. How do you balance all these different hats that you wear when you run a business?
Well, I know enough to get myself in trouble in a lot of areas. I'm actually a generalist. I've had a background in creative work for years, but I think you need to know when you need to hire someone who knows what they're good at, or need to hire someone as soon as you need them. If you're in an area that you're not particularly good at, get someone who is good at it, doing it. You have to be very disciplined. It's easy enough to sort of do what the phone tells you to do or email tells you to do on a daily basis, but you really need to discipline yourself to continue to look at the bigger picture and certainly work on short-term, long-term goals. Working as a team is incredibly important, and also choosing good partners. I have to say that when I first started this business, the reason I started it with my partners was not because of the product, but because I knew between the three of us we'd do something successful, and that was something I had never experienced before. And I think that the qualities that we each have are both complementary and distinctly different. So we can watch each other's back, but also carry the ball that we need to carry and not, get in anybody else's way. So I think that's really important.
As a leader, there's certain management styles or leadership styles. It's like some people lead with a stick. Some are like real easygoing. How would you describe your philosophy on leadership, your style? Well,
hopefully I lead by example, and then I I try to create an environment that that allows an individual to initiate on their own. I try to hire people that are proactive, just naturally proactive. But I try to create an environment that will allow an individual to take things on and take ownership themselves, rather than me constantly drive them. I'm not interested in being a micromanager. And continue to support them with the tools that they need and set up deadlines that are achievable. But I mean, in our company, because we have so few employees, each individual is critical to the growth of the company. So, and I don't think that'll change. I am not used to working in a large environment, so I don't know that I'd be particularly successful in a big corporate environment. I've mainly worked in small businesses, so I think there's a distinctly different culture there, and a very different managing style that probably needs to happen.
What's your goals for the next 5 years?
Wow. To have fun and to be successful. I mean, I think that being successful, at least today, as opposed to 15 years ago, for me means not making the most money I can make, but creating a company that people want to work at, that puts Stone on the map, that creates an image for us as Stone experts rather than just Stone salesmen, and that we can actually do some significant projects that are meaningful. I'm also a big believer in doing giving back to the community, so I do a lot of volunteer work on my own, so trying to create some opportunities for us as a company to invest back in the community, which we're actually doing right now. But
can you think of proud moments?
Proud moments. Well, my daughter's created a lot of proud moments for me, certainly, truthfully. And then as an owner of a company, I've been pretty proud the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's taken me the better part of 35 years to get to a point where I have something I'm passionate about. My daughter just graduated from college a year ago, and I said, you don't need to know what, it's not possible that you would necessarily know what you need to do for the next 50 years of your life. So just be patient and trust your instincts, and just keep moving forward. And so I'm proud of where I am right now. I'm a kind of a combination of a lot of instinctual decisions down the way, but it's all sort of culminated into a series of traits that I think are very strong and will allow us to be successful as a company. But I can't think of a specific moment. We did have a big event last year out at Magnuson Field. The objective was not to necessarily have a big sales evening, but to have an event that got people excited about Stone. So we rented 22,000 square feet of space, which is an old airplane hangar, and stuck up 5 big Stone vignettes and invited the community, and it was a very successful evening. We got our friends from China showed up. We had architects, landscape architects, business owners, artists, politicians, media, all kinds of folks showed up, and it was a proud moment to see that you could get people excited about something that they hadn't really thought about for a while, and that was a lot of fun.